Welcome to Separate Bathrooms. I'm Daddo.
I'm Daddo.
And that's Curly outside. Thanks for joining us throughout these continuing uncertain times. How are you going?
I'm really tired at the moment.
Oh.
I'm meeting a lot of people that are also really tired. Everyone I work with is tired. Everyone I do Pilates with is tired.
I'm tired of being tired.
Yeah, it's just, it's
Why?
winter. It's cold. I think goodness knows how Victorians are doing it right now, doing it really tough, going into their fourth lockdown.
Yep.
You know, I think we're just, it's tricky times. It's tiring. I'm just really feeling it.
Suppression? Depression?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's either of those. I think it's just coping with a lot of things. Stretched.
Well, speaking of, I'm stretched. I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Feeling limbered up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Look at you. Yeah, look at your legs wrapped around your head like that. That's amazing.
It's the yoga, honey. Wanted to share some feedback from our Facebook group, Separate Bathrooms Podcast, which you can join. We'd love to hear from you. Any ideas you'd like us to discuss or people you'd like us to speak with? It's open slather over there, Separate Bathrooms Podcast. Do you want to read from our listener?
Oh, I'd love to. You showed me this yesterday, I think, and it was just so lovely. So we wanted to share it with everyone. One of the listeners says, "Thank you for coming back on air. My partner and I were in a very rocky place, and then I stumbled upon your podcast. Now we make time to listen together whilst we do yoga and discuss how we can do better. Love and life is difficult to navigate, so your inspirational episodes and personal events help us to feel not so cray-cray." Thanks, Alan Cam. I love that.
Or tired.
Or tired.
You don't look tired now, so you're
tired.
fired up now. You've had a little chat. Had some nice feedback.
Yeah, look, that's everything right there, isn't it? That's exactly what we would hope. In some ways, it might hit someone, at some of the podcasts that we do, if it helps you, if it doesn't. But even if it's just fun to listen to, but if it does do something to assist, then we're happy campers.
Last week we had Julia Morris and husband Dan as guests, and this was part of the feedback to that. And we had more feedback about them normalising therapy and making it a part of their relationship. It was a lovely reminder to us.
We recorded an episode about relationship therapy back in 2019, and we've always been a big promoter of therapy anyway. And since we have some new listeners.
Welcome listener.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And you might not have heard it, so we wanted to just sort of give a bit of a gentle reminder of if you are struggling, if you need someone, professional to talk to, go out and find someone.
I believe we called it To Therapy or Not to Therapy.
What a genius title.
So let's open the time capsule and revisit simpler days when we didn't think twice about hugging someone, when we felt that feeling you get the moment a concert begins, and when we got dressed up to go out. We're going back to the future.
Enjoy.
I believe we're already having an argument at the beginning of this one. Hi, I'm Cam.
Hi, I'm Ali.
We are the Daddos. This is Separate Bathrooms, and today is an interesting one, right, honey?
It is. We are diving into talking about therapy. Does it work? Is it all just a bunch of woo-woo weird stuff, or can it make a situation worse? And how did it help us? Because I know that he's laughing. It did help us.
Look, I know. I know it did. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it has.
We have done a lot of it. Maybe we need to do more of it. And we're just really happy to sort of share our experiences, and just in the hope that it might be of interest. It might actually help people out there if you're thinking about doing it or not. So we're here to share our experiences.
Yes. And are we happy about that? Yes. Challenged by it? Yes.
Yes.
First of all, I do want to acknowledge that without therapy, counselling, psychotherapy, analysis, the process of sitting with another and pouring out your problems and issues goes by a lot of labels, doesn't it? But we would not be here without doing it today. We simply would not be married.
Right.
It's much more normalised behaviour in the US than it is Australia. I think Australia, we're more influenced, by the English, the put up and shut up, the stiff upper lip sort of deal. But in the US, that's where we were when we started. The dogs are having a fight over there.
What does this mean?
Oh God,
Let's analyse this.
So, looking back, how did we get started? When I began, I wasn't seeking counselling for my emotional state. I basically fell into it when I damaged my knee. I will be forever grateful for that game of American football with Tom Cruise and his mates. And even though my knee wasn't receptive to Tom's hands-on when they said, Tom will fix it, put his hands on there, it's like, this ain't going to do it. I had a ruptured ACL. And prior to surgery, I was working out at the gym and was recommended a body-mind teacher for rehab. And her name's Doreen Rivera. You can check her out online. I thought I was going to learn about stretching and rehab. Her thing was understanding the emotional... That's Curly, by the way, making all that noise as I'm riffing on this. Oh, my God. Here we go. Well, I'll keep going. But Doreen's thing was about understanding the emotional, the spiritual, the physical workings of the body and the mind. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm sitting there for an hour and a half talking. Where's the bit where you show me how to fix my knee? But it felt good being with her. And that first session was the beginning of many years of work, unfolding basic patterns, really, behavioural patterns.
Right.
And my knee got fixed.
Yeah, fast, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Our marriage really imploded about 6 months after Cam was seeing Doreen for his knee. And when that happened, I had no clue who to reach out to. I was we were in Los Angeles. I hadn't met that many people at that point. And gratefully, I just thought, well, I'll call Doreen. I'll call the same person that you were seeing to help rehab your knee. And it was then that I began unraveling so much about myself and about how our marriage was in some ways destined from the beginning for disaster.
It's foreboding. This is where it's difficult. When we talk about disaster, a lot was written about our marriage. A lot has been written about that time in our marriage. And as you know, you can't believe everything you read in the press, especially not the glossy magazines. So it's actually nice to have this situation to be able to set things straight and tell our stories. I'll be honest, as not that I haven't been, but as nervous and as much trepidation as I have about getting into this. Are we going to get into this?
Sure.
Really?
Why not? Yeah.
Okay.
We've had, more questions asked of us about infidelity and therapy and how it helped than any other subject because it has been splashed across the papers so much. And when people know that that's something that's in our marriage that we've been able to not only overcome but heal, a lot of people have curiosity about that, and I understand. And it's a big part of the history and the colour of our marriage, and it shaped the rest of our relationship really like nothing else. And when I started working on my own issues and my issues of deep insecurity and constantly feeling so much lesser than Cam, and that somehow I was just this incredibly lucky girl to be chosen by the handsome, perfect match prince, and I was all in with everything and anything, and I was just so crazy in love, and so much so that I had really lost myself. And to some extent, I had also done that in previous relationships, and they had all ended in the exact same way, and that is with me being cheated on. So in that realization, I knew why, if I'm the common denominator here, is there something that I'm contributing? Is there something that I'm doing? Not that I deserved it, not that I made someone cheat, but what was it that I needed to take a long look at myself and see what my behavior was? And therapy, it's so unbelievably confronting. And as anyone who's done it, they know that. And also with the right therapist, though, it's incredibly life-changing. And I'm just incredibly grateful for our experiences now.
Do you feel like you have resolution with those things that you just talked about, like being cheated on and looking at your own patterns? Do you feel fixed?
I would never say the word fixed, because I think that's I don't know, it's sort of like, yes, it's fixed, like something was broken and then you fixed it and it's all done now. I think it's an evolving pattern. I mean, the baseline was how insecure I felt. Now, am I feeling so much stronger, confident, loving towards myself now? 100%. That's still an evolving process, though. So, yeah, a lot's changed since then because I had to look at myself.
Yeah.
Well, I chose to look at myself. So I'm a work in progress, and I'm fine with that.
And do you feel like, because people have that attitude about therapy, going, that's therapy, and those damn Americans do the therapy, that you're in therapy for the rest of your life? Or do you think there's a time when you can actually you're not in therapy forever?
Yeah, I don't think you're in therapy forever.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, that's an individual thing. Yeah. I feel like, I think, there's some people with incredible traumas in their life, and maybe that is for them something that they need to be in therapy forever to keep them on a balanced keel. I didn't have major damage like that in my childhood, or, I'm dancing around topics here. I know that. This one was a particular, infidelity was a particular common one for me. So I knew it was something that I wanted to tackle because I'd had enough. When it was my husband, I just knew that there was something I needed to look at and change for myself.
And it's such a charged subject, isn't it? Because
it is.
I mean, people get furious.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The
and I
betrayal
understand. Yeah.
So do I. And it's just, that's where it's hard for me, having done it.
Yeah.
To suddenly go back into those feelings again. Because it's so judged. People who do it are judged. People who are judged by themselves, they're judged by others.
Yeah.
Most people will tell the person who's been cheated on to kick the person to the curb.
Yeah.
As you were told.
Yeah, by many people. Yeah, that people found it confusing. I stayed.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah,
yeah. For me, as I said, I didn't go into therapy I didn't think there was anything wrong with me. I didn't, in terms of my emotional state. It just happened that this lady Doreen that she dealt with the emotional part for emotional side of things for physical trauma, and amazing how working with the two sides really helped to mend both situations. But quite simply for me, what I discovered was I was living unconsciously, and doing those sessions was about bringing consciousness to my behaviour and my relationship with you. Even now, when you remind me of things that I said, things that I did, and if I don't remember, the announcement of moving to the States, when I didn't acknowledge your feelings, or me saying that, signing that contract for a 7-year TV drama contract without knowing where it was being shot. I didn't know where it was being shot. And in that case, it was, as you know, it was on the other side of the North American continent and in another country. It was in Canada. Yeah. So therapy for me became about finding integrity. Became about matching my words with my actions. And when they don't match, that's when I'm out of integrity. It's a pretty simple equation to stick with. That's what helped me.
Yeah, I understand that. Oh. You all right?
Yeah, I'm okay.
I know this.
I still feel it.
Yeah.
I still feel it.
Yeah. And for anyone who feels like their marriage is lost to infidelity or lost in any way that feels irretrievable, if there is at the very base of all that hurt and confusion still a flame of love, then I say seek help. It's hard to do it alone. As we said, we could have never made it through that time without a third person, and the opportunity to grow yourself through that is huge. The opportunity to stay with that person that you fell in love with is still there, and things that needs to be a lot in place in order, of course, to stay in the marriage. Though, I remember one moment so specifically, and it was we were sitting there, the two of us, and I just remember having this feeling of you were breaking down, you were crying and going over what had happened, and I just felt so much love for you and understood that I loved you unconditionally. No matter what had happened, that feeling for you had not changed. There was hurt and there was anger, though the unconditional love that I felt for you was still there. And that's what I latched onto. That's what I took a hold of. And I thought, I get this. And I get to explore that with you because you were so willing to explore your pain with me as well. And that was an incredible moment for not only me, but our marriage as well.
Mm. Yeah. Well, you mentioned before, if there is still a flicker of flame, a flicker of love, to fan it and see if you can make that fire up again. And you also said about doing it alone, and I wonder how effective that would be. I don't know that you could figure it out alone. Yeah. I know in stressful situations, my imagination goes crazy. I create scenarios in my mind and have conversations that will never happen, basically drive myself mad. Yet with a third person, with a professional who's able to keep me on track, as I need to do, I can go off topic, as you know, pretty quickly. But they, you've got someone who can see things without an emotional attachment or an agenda to my situation. It's very helpful. And I really, I endorse it in a major way. And I think that, I remember when we were going through our stuff and we were in the States and we'd come back here and I did get questions about, don't you think you're getting, too much? You're in therapy, are you? Mm. Yeah, I am. Why? Why don't you just go out and have a beer with someone and do that with your mates? Why can't you do that? And it's, once you've done it and you've been there and done it, once you've put yourself in front of someone and they hold a mirror up to you, I remember that's one thing Doreen used to say was she used to do that analogy of the what was it, the Matrix. You've taken the red pill. Once you've taken the red, you can't go back. You've just got to. It's time to dive in and get real with it. So,
yeah, and in order to have the therapy work for you, and in order to stay when trust has been broken, and this is the biggest key to infidelity, both of you have to be on board to doing the work. Because if just I was seeing a therapist and you weren't, no way were we going to heal this. No. And vice versa. If I had just walked away and you were doing the work, we wouldn't have come back together. So, when we agreed to both singularly start work on ourselves and then eventually start doing couple therapy, that was when we started making big leaps and bounds in our lives and in our marriage. And, you never gave me excuses for your cheating. You never said it was my fault, or you never said it was because you didn't give me this. There was never any of that. You took full responsibility for what you had done. And I took full responsibility for what was going on for me. because there isn't an excuse. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like when people try to excuse that and go, well, she wasn't putting out, or he didn't look at me the way I wanted him to look at me, so I wanted to make him jealous, or you know what I mean? Those excuses just, they don't work. It's just a whole mess of pain. When people do that, when couples do that. So how do you keep loving each other and not let the infidelity just begin like this slow leak of poison in the relationship?
Yeah, because it's there. It never goes away. So are you going to let it turn fetid?
Right.
Or you can, what's that, the Buddhist analogy, turning poison into medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, firstly, as you said, there are no excuses. I have to say it. I cannot excuse my infidelity. Those were my actions that I'm still sorry for today. And I've battled with the forgiveness of myself and shame around it. I still have those moments. And this is 20 odd years on.
Yeah.
I've had moments where I've wanted to leave you because the pain that I caused you and seeing you reminded me of that part of me that I despised. I'd see you and know what I did and go, I got to go. I physically cannot stay. But I've had help and support along the way to keep me. And, I got that through counselling and then through our friends. They were kind to me. They stood by me. And I was blessed. And I know there are many people in my situation who have been shunned and ostracised, like what we talked about. I was not. And then there's the answer to your question. How do you keep loving each other? And for me, I never stopped loving you. My actions were not born. God, they weren't born through.
You okay?
Shit. They weren't born out of a lack of love for you. And through our work, through the counselling, I came to understand that my actions were born of just a really childlike need to be wanted and to be liked. So when I got that attention, there was a quick high for me. It was about the same time as a bottle rocket lasts in the sky. And then it was straight up loathing and hiding after that. It was an awful way to live in that period. And there I am trying to, have a career and, and this split was in me because on the outside, there's bouncy Cam.
Yeah.
And there's Cameron Daddo, and I'm putting that shit on.
Yeah.
Which wasn't, I wasn't putting it on. That was one side of me, but the split developed. You could argue it had always been there. Mm. But
I remember we'd look at sort of photographs of that time and the colour of your skin.
Oh, grey.
You were just grey. It was like the life was sucked out of you.
I'm sure that's why I'm grey now. Yeah. Sure.
Nothing to do with jeans.
No, especially the Levi's.
Yeah, though it was, it was painful for you as much as it was for me.
Right.
It was a really painful time. And, still, some days, for a while there, for quite some time, some days were much harder than others, even with all of the therapy, that we did. And through that, I needed to forgive, because forgiving is what helped me feel better. Mm. It wasn't about forgiving you because you needed it. I had to forgive you because I felt better in forgiving you. And I could have walked away and that would have been hard, though it felt more painful to walk away than stay because of how much I loved you. And then when I understood that, I thought, well, I'm going to fight for this. I'm going to stay and see where we can take this. And we did that one day at a time. We didn't make plans for the future for our marriage. We just went one day at a time.
Right.
Today, I'm in this marriage. Yeah. And I knew choosing to stay meant that I had to wholly forgive without that, holding the cheating over our marriage. And, we never would have moved on through that experience. And of course, time, helps a lot. And your actions, is imperative because, as we all know, words alone do nothing to heal a break of trust. Only actions is what make a difference. And that's what I watched you constantly do. I watched your actions. And today I went, yes, I see the actions he's taking. Today I'm going to stay married. And then those days went until there we were years later, 28 years later, and I'm grateful. I really can honestly say I'm grateful that we had that experience and that we had it young, and we were able to shift our marriage into a much more honest and open place.
And look, I knew that, and I know that now, and I know that at the time I had to make changes, and you've actually reminded me about that day-to-day thing, and that people, in our marriages, we did it, and is that we can take our marriage for granted, and it really is a day-to-day proposition, and it's a very powerful thing to wake up and go, I'm choosing to be married today. I choose you, and today I'm married, and I was actually I haven't spoken about this before, but I set up men's team for guys to have meetings together in confidence once a month. And we had our meeting last night. And I brought up, I would never say what anyone else says in men's team, but I know I can say that Elle and I, every few months, we will end up in a situation where we actually do make that choice. Still, do you want to be married today? And I said, and they're looking at me, and I'm just like, it's actually a really powerful way to galvanize what is it that we're actually doing? How do I feel? And I remember back at that time, I had to be patient, super patient, because I have spoken about this before, where most guys, can't really generalize, but we like to fix things.
Yeah. And
we like them done so you can set and forget, and done and move on to the next task. And that was not going to work.
Right.
I knew words wouldn't do it. I couldn't give you a bunch of flowers and a card and that would be fixed. It was like, no, this is going to take days, weeks, months, possibly years, possibly a lifetime. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can stick around. But here we are, 28 years later. And we still have the moments, and we're still dealing with the feelings. And these feelings, they need to be acknowledged every time. Would you agree with that?
I guess maybe sort of like the root of it, where I feel invisible to you, or I feel like you're not caring. You don't care about me. So I guess in that sense, yes, I don't feel concerned that you're cheating on me or you've left the marriage. Though that, in essence, infidelity comes from that place where you're not caring enough about yourself or the other person to stay true to that person. So in that sense, yes, that root, that root of that does come up, where I feel like I've become invisible to you somehow. And, we talked about that just yesterday. When was that? Yesterday. Yeah.
Well, I found that very good advice for me was there are going to be moments down the track where you are going to still need to apologize for what you did.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time thinking, but I've said sorry, and I've said it 50 million times, and I mean it. Though I really get what that is now, and it's in those, it's when the feelings come up for me. And like watching a TV show like that maths show, And I remember watching the cheating that was going on there, or the betrayal of trust, and just going, oh my God, it was bringing all those feelings up for me. I can only imagine what other viewers are feeling as well if they've been through that, you know. And just feeling all that stuff coming up again, and it's horrible. I'm still sorry, honey. I apologise. I do. I apologise because it has coloured.
Yeah.
It moved our marriage into a different phase. It grew us up.
Yeah, it did.
You know, it blew up. It destroyed what we had, and we had to put something together again. We chose to put something together again.
Yeah.
It did change.
Yeah, it did.
And I miss some of that early, just that wide-eyed kind of
glow.
innocence, and you know,
yeah, I understand
the
that.
abandon of things. It just became a little bit more somber, and sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah.
Though we grew up, and clearly we needed to because it happened.
Yeah.
And yeah,
We were both so immature when we, as you know, we've spoken about getting together. And that's, you know, I think that's really great advice in what you're talking about is if there's infidelity within your relationship, I think both sides, whoever has been cheated on, however many times they need to speak about their feelings and however many times the other person needs to hear it and apologize, I think that has to be infinite in some ways, you know, not punishing the other person. As I said, you know, the forgiveness is incredibly important because had I kept punishing you for that, our marriage would have unraveled as well.
it
would have been hideous for both of us. And, you know, to be able to speak about it honestly and to still be able to say, this is, wow, that really taps into those moments for me. And the other person to say, I'm so sorry that my actions caused those feelings.
Yeah, we've both been on that. We've both been on either side of that too.
Yeah.
It's a good strategy to have, especially when it's done from the heart.
Yeah.
Not to sort of fix a situation, but it's done from the heart because you really feel like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can feel it when it's real.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about that this particular part of our marriage has been documented a fair few times, and there was a recent article that came out, and it was a real unauthorized one that we didn't have anything to do. We didn't talk to the people about it. It was just something that came completely out of the blue for us. And I happened to read, because it was such a shock that it came out in the press again, and I happened to read some of the comments, and one really struck me, and it was from a man, and he said, I have no respect for people who cheat and no respect for people who take cheaters back. And what do you think of that?
Well, to each his own. That guy, you're probably not going to be able to, because it's so cut and dried, you're not going to be able to talk him around.
Yeah.
Again, all I could do in my situation is to share my experience of it. To me, he's missing out on an opportunity. You know, if that's happened to him, and I guess if he's saying something like that, he'd probably been cheated on, and he would never have the person come back, and he probably feels absolutely stupid for being cheated on. But there is an opportunity there to understand yourself deeper and to understand the person that you loved, because if those feelings wouldn't be so big if you had an indifferent sort of vibe about them, if you didn't feel that way about them. So that's my thought anyway. At the moment, something else might come to mind. What do you think about it?
Well, I know that I had many times where I felt, was I an idiot for staying? Like, was this something that, was this a weakness in me that I took you back? And this feeling of being stupid somehow, stupid that I was cheated on, that I didn't know, or that I wasn't good enough, and all those majorly insecure feelings that come up for people who have been cheated on. I'm sure it's, you know, if you've had the experience yourself, you'll probably understand what I'm talking about. And so to overcome work through those feelings and have I have great respect for people who choose to stay as long as, you know, they've done the work with the other partner and grown the strength of themselves. I think I know it's a really difficult thing to do. So I don't agree with what he's saying. You know, he's seeing it from a limited perspective of words on paper without really knowing the backstory to everything. And as you said, his experience is his experience. So I feel there's great opportunities, basically, just great opportunities to grow and stay if you have the right partner to do that with.
Yeah, yeah. But what about the person that gets cheated on and the cheater doesn't do the work, but the person still goes back? What do you say to that person?
Ooh, I guess why? Why did you go back? My greatest concern would be that person doesn't feel worthy enough of having someone to treat them honestly and kindly. That would be my greatest concern, that they didn't feel worthy enough to have someone be loyal. And, you know, if somehow if they felt it was their fault, that's also of great concern. Oh, because that's such an important point to understand for me, and I just want anyone out there who's been cheated on to know it's not about you. Your cheating was not about me. It was not about anything I wasn't giving. It wasn't about anything that I was doing or not doing. It was you cheated because of your own world and your own issues. And my work was my work, but there was nothing that I did to contribute to your cheating. And that, you know, you made your own choice, and that's incredibly important as well. So in that scenario, if you weren't doing the work and you weren't apologetic and I went back to you, that would be, I can't imagine it. I couldn't do it. I think that there's a self-worth in there that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. This has been a big one.
Yes.
And I'm sure just the word cheat.
Yeah.
It brings up so much. I mean, it takes you across the sporting fields, you know.
Right.
Obviously in relationships.
Card
business.
games.
Dirty drive and cheat. I mean, just the idea of cheating brings up such big feelings. It's such a hot topic. So I can only imagine that you, our listener right now, if you've got big feelings about this or you've got any more questions about this, Instagram us I'm at Cameron Daddo and Al's at Ali Daddo. And we can take this further. If you've got a comment, and we can discuss it further if you've got any more questions for us based around this.
Yeah,
because it's a sensitive subject.
Right, and if we haven't been clear enough as well.
Correct.
Because I hope we have. I really want to be clear about this because it is, as you said, it's such a big topic and it's a juicy one to delve into. It's a challenging one, though it's a good one.
I didn't find that last half hour challenging at all.
Oh, honey.
I did actually. Look, thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
We'll have some more entertainment for you next time.
Time for a cup of tea. All right, bye for now.
Bye.